Are we? Did- Yeah, I just saw the comment. I'm like kind of keeping an eye on it. I was waiting for you to stop talking so I could tell you that nobody can hear you
Oh
except for me. I could.
no! Wow, this is so. This started out so wrong. I was like, oh my god, like
This is gonna be your best live stream ever. Okay,
yes. I was
it
like,
can only go uphill from here.
can you guys hear me? And you couldn't. And I just kept asking if you could hear me. And I just kept doing the intro, and it was so good. Like it was so good. But yeah,
It really was. I could hear it, everybody, and it was his best intro that he's ever
it's the
done.
best intro.
So it's a shame that you can hear
But
it.
yeah, I'm just going to start again now that you can hear me, and I'm going to cut that part out. Hopefully, hopefully everything goes out as planned. Okay, so I started the intro by saying, "Hi everyone, welcome to this amazing stream." 1 year later, like this is finally like this is amazing. We get to do this 1 year after we did the first one. I'm hoping this is like a tradition where like I come back every year to ask Joey for a stream. It would be really cool. It could be a really cool transition where everyone expects December.
I'm in.
I'm glad you're in. Okay, so as you know, I'm Olamide, and sometimes I go by ROJ the GOAT. This channel like sort of started as a way to help designers make the transition to motion design, but it has grown into so much more. And before I continue with this stream, I just wanted to give a shout out to the kind folks at Àṣà Coterie and my friend Caleb for letting me use this space. They're both like Àṣà Coterie is a community for like a community centered around helping design grow in Africa, and I'm excited to be a part of that community, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to work with them. And today's guest actually needs no introduction at all. Like I don't need to do any intro because everyone knows you, Joey, and I feel like most people are here because of your 1 year. So like no introductions. Joey's like the legend founder of School of Motion. Literally how everyone is learning motion design in 2021 or 2022. And I'm super excited to have you on again. So how are you doing today, Joey?
I'm doing great, and thank you for that. Maybe a little bit over the top introduction, but I do appreciate it, man. No, I'm doing really good. It's beautiful here in Florida, and we're in the middle of our registration period at School of Motion, so we're super busy, but it's all good stuff. Yeah, it's good to be here.
That is so cool. Like I'm glad to see you here again. What has 2021 been like for you so far?
That's a great question.
Mm. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so I just got notified that your audio went out, so I'm just going to fix that real quick. It's like everything just keeps going weirdly. Oh, okay, I see why. Can you guys hear Joey now?
Hello. Hello.
Can you hear Joey now? I fixed that. I forgot to put back the audio down. I'm sorry. If you were like a streamer and you constantly do streaming, I want to say like I respect you like as a person, and I understand everything you're going through because I am going through it right now. I'm like I need your help. Like just come help me do this. This is just a lot. But yeah,
Send help.
but yeah, like if you missed that, Joey was just talking about how 2021 has been a year where everything is evolving and is moving to the east coast of. I hope I said that right. I think the eastern part of Florida is if I.
Yeah, so we're just going to visit the east coast of Florida. So like the holidays are coming up, and so School of Motion. One of the things we do every year is we take a winter break. Sort of like a school,
Yeah.
and so we have a couple of weeks where we're basically shut down, just kind of doing the minimum amount necessary to like keep things going, and everybody gets a nice break. And so my family and I are going to go over to the Space Coast and hopefully see Elon Musk shoot a rocket ship.
That would be so cool. I would
be
really
cool.
appreciate if you send me a picture of how it looks like up close. What it feels like with Elon Musk shooting a rocket up space. That would be so nice. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait
Yep.
to get the picture from you. So before we like continue with this stream, I would like us to maybe take a back at our last conversation. And our last conversation is one of the most impactful conversations I've ever had with anyone on this channel, period. And it's like we spoke about a lot of things, and they focused mainly on inclusivity in the motion design community, and they focused on software accessibility and also information accessibility, which is getting those information to places like getting those three things to places like Nigeria and other countries in Africa. And the past year, I think my perspective on a lot of all those things have changed. I think most of the time I was like, in that conversation, it was more like, you guys don't regard us, you guys don't regard us. I still feel like most people outside the country just feel like America is the only country in the map of the world. I still feel that way, but then a lot of things have changed. I've seen a lot of improvement, and at the same time, I haven't seen a lot of improvement. How have you generally seen how have you seen improvements, or like maybe how has those things evolved for you? I think that's a better way to put the questions.
Yeah, so I remember this is something that I've been thinking about, and we talk about at School of Motion a lot. The fact that first of all, most of the work and the studios and the artists that we talk about and that get noticed are in the U.S. or they're in one of probably a dozen countries in Europe.
Yes.
Maybe some South American studios get on the map. But the rest of the world, like large parts of Asia and basically the entire continent of Africa, just gets ignored. And so how can we sort of, I guess make that a little more fair, because obviously like Africa has like this amazing culture of art, and there's world-class artists there too. And so we've been trying, and to be honest, it's kind of tough to find. I think mostly just because like when you're like, let's say we wanted to go out and we wanted to feature a whole bunch of artists from Nigeria. Well, I could ask you. I mean,
Yeah.
that would probably be
That
like
would be
one of
a
the only
no-brainer.
ways I would have access to that community. And so I think that like part of what we're trying to do, and it just takes a long time, is sort of build these bridges, right? So I think what we're doing here is one way. I now have a direct connection to someone who lives in Africa that knows, like the communities, and you mentioned
Àṣà Coterie.
I'll pronounce it wrong, but you thanked this community there that like helps unite African artists. I didn't even know that existed, right? So I think first of all, it's just doing stuff like this. It's like raising awareness of, that the world's a big place, and there's a lot of other places that aren't Los Angeles or Chicago or New York or Florida. But the other thing that I think is really good is software part.
Yeah.
So since we've last talked, so first of all, the cost of certain things has gone down, right? So Cinema 4D is now a subscription where, and they have educational pricing and stuff like that, where you can now get that piece of software. It used to cost thousands of dollars. Now you can get it for, I think, as low as probably 30 or 50 bucks a month. And because it's a subscription, that makes it a lot easier for companies to do different pricing tiers for different geographies. It's a lot harder to do that for a lot of reasons when there's sort of one price, here's the product. It's easier when they can tell that you are logging in from Brazil and they can apply sort of a currency adjustment and now your price is different. On top of that, you have a lot of software that's coming out with this different model like Blender, where it's completely free. Unreal is free up until sort of a certain revenue level when you're building things with it. So there's these new pricing models that are actually a lot more fair and that you can get into them for free.
Yeah.
And it's not until you're actually making money with them that you have to pay. So I think that's a great development.
I feel like on the software part, I'm a bit torn. I'm like a bit divided. I feel like, yes, there are subscriptions, but a lot of us still can't afford the subscription. I feel like my finances have grown from the last time we spoke. So I would like to officially announce that I am no longer a pirate. I am paying for every single software I use, and I'm grateful for that. But I feel like a lot of people still can't. Like, a lot of people I know can't afford to pay $50 every month for Adobe or $100 for Maxon One, which gives you everything. And where I feel like the software has improved is in the sense that all these other softwares are now like softwares like Blender, Unreal Engine are now industry standard. I mean, I lost a project to someone who uses Unreal Engine. That is amazing. Like, people are starting to realize that maybe we shouldn't like lock people to like the Adobe ecosystem or Maxon's ecosystem. We can give other softwares a chance. And I've gotten projects just because I use a specific software, just because I use Blender. And there are many requirements where people say, can you use Unreal Engine? Like, let's hire you because you can use Unreal Engine. And I'm so happy for that because, like, one of the conversations we had when in our last conversation was like, why don't you just adapt your course for all these other softwares? And you're like, that would be challenging, and like these softwares are not necessarily industry professionals. What I'm seeing is like those softwares are becoming industry professional, and I'm so excited for that. And also the inclusivity. I feel like the inclusivity affects me a lot in the sense that I just sit down every week and I look at events going on with people I know, and I feel like, oh my God, I would love to be a part of this. And nobody calls me for it. And I'm just like, oh God, this is so sad. When would Maxon or Author?
Well, maybe you just need to get good at crashing parties. Okay, so like there's the trick. Like, you just need to get on a plane, just come to Florida, and I'll bring you around. Right, I'll introduce you to to the studios and the parties, and this is my cousin. He's visiting.
Yeah. I'm secretly planning to. Nobody knows this, but I'm secretly planning to move to Florida, like specifically Florida, for a specific reason. I was going to surprise you and just tell you, oh, Joey, I'm in Florida now, and just be like, wow, you're in Florida. But now I've like ruined the surprise.
Anytime you want, man. You are invited. We have a guest room. We got a guest bed. Anytime, man. Let's do it.
That would be so cool. I'm going to let you know how everything goes. Maybe in Nigeria we call it Jackpot plan, which is basically just plan to escape the country. It's weird because I'm publicly announcing that I'm planning to escape my own country. But Florida is like the biggest, is like my main choice if I'm trying to move out. It's like Florida is the main place to come to. So yeah, we'll see how that goes, and I'm excited to finally see you in person and have dinner at your place as well. But yeah.
Love it. Yeah, we'll grill out. We'll go to Disney World.
That would be so cool. But yeah, like I was talking about like the inclusivity and how like people still don't regard, like, I'm as good as anybody. I feel like my work is as good as anybody. Maybe I'm not Somi level or Tendrio level or like Buck level, but like my work is as good as anybody, or anybody here is as good as anybody there. And it's like we're not still like included. And when you have competitions or you have events going on, like, and there's no Africa on the map, like literally no Africa on the map, and it stings every time that happens. Like it really really stings when every time that happens, but at the same time, like there's no one to rant to, so I'm ranting to you. I feel like we're still not included in anything. But I noticed one thing with School of Motion, it has improved a lot. Like immediately after our stream last year, and you guys were having the scholarship program at the time, I got notifications from a bunch of Nigerians who got into your scholarship program. I was like, that is so amazing. And ever since, I've been seeing Nigerians get into the scholarship. And anytime someone says, oh, I can't afford the software, I would say, oh yeah, try the scholarship program. There's like a 60% chance that you would get in, because like you guys are starting to include us. But like for everyone else, even you guys at some point, but like everyone else, I still don't see that yet, and it still stings a lot. Like it really really stings. And also like the information accessibility, I think that's not even a no-brainer. That has improved so much. Like anyone can just go online and like you can learn any software for free, even without taking the School of Motion course. And you don't even have to pirate it or do anything. It's now affordable, like with places like Domestika and even Skillshare, and even MoGraph Mentor launched like a subscription service, and it made it so much affordable to like watch a MoGraph Mentor course. The MoGraph Mentor have like they have like two types of courses, which is like the on-demand and the mentorship. All the on-demand courses are under a subscription, and it just makes it so much affordable, so much easier to get access to. And I think information is now like very accessible to anybody. But yeah, those are just the things that I see and really hurt me a lot. It feels like I just went to like a long rant about all these things. But yeah.
Well, no, I mean it's good. It's like you're making me think too, because it's like there's, I mean, you said a lot there. I think the thing that stuck with me though is that it feels like when we're talking about like awards and what are some studios to bid on a project, everybody thinks of the studios that are in sort of the Western world, and Africa isn't. It's like it doesn't even enter the thought process of an ad agency that's like, hey, let's find an amazing studio to make a commercial. They immediately think of California or London or something like that. And I think that part of it's actually an interesting question, because that's also kind of a different, trying to think of how to put it. It's almost like a different flavor of the same issue that we hear a lot about, just with like diversity in general in the industry, where there's this question of like the chicken and the egg, right? I don't know if that's an expression in Africa, but it's basically like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Because chickens come out of eggs, but then chickens make eggs. So it's kind of a weird thing. But there's like this, I'm trying to think of a nicer way to put it, but it's like for a long time in motion design, all of the artists that got featured and interviewed and all of that stuff were white men, and that was it. And it sort of painted this picture of the industry where, like it wasn't even like an intentional thing. It was just sort of like, okay, well, look, this is what successful artists in this field look like. I'm, I'm a black female. I can't relate to that. And there's been a lot of work done in the industry, and we've featured artists, and we've kind of done the best we can to make the community of motion design look a lot more like the world. But at the same time, it goes a lot faster if you have like some really shining examples of people that can act as role models. And I think it's the same thing with studios and with stuff like that too. And it's just a matter of finding them and then elevating them, right? So that's why like I'm really glad that you're doing what you're doing, because you're bringing attention to it and you're talking about the creative community in Africa and in Nigeria where you live. But it would be awesome if there was just more of that. If there was more people like, because it can happen from the top down. School of Motion can go out and look and find studios, and agencies can go looking and try to find studios to hire. It's a lot easier when you have studios popping up and making a lot of noise and saying, look at us, look at us, look at us. And so if that's not happening, then it should. And, I'd love to know like how you and I can kind of empower people to do that. If they feel like, oh, well, we shouldn't really toot our own horn, we shouldn't make a lot of noise because no one's going to listen to us anyway. So I feel like you have to attack the problem both ways. You have to be aware of it from the top, but you also have to like pushed from the bottom. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, you're right. I feel like many time I think about it, feels like I have to do a lot of fighting to even get noticed. I have to like the most amazing work I can possibly do, but I think I've done like really amazing work and still doesn't get seen, I guess. And
yeah, well, I'll say this too, and this is something that you just have to take to heart. Doing good work is not enough. That's
like you.
It's hard to accept that, right?
Yeah.
Like you showed me right before we started recording. You showed me 2 3D renders you did, and they're beautiful, right? So I know your work is good, but that's not enough because a lot of people have good work. It's like your work is good, and your communication skills are good, and you're the right price, and you have the right portfolio, and I think of you right when I have the job.
And also one variable, which is time
if
zone.
all of those things aren't lined up, then it won't matter.
And I added one variable, which is time zone. I've lost 60% of the work I see posted to time zone difference. It's like, oh shit, I'm like, you guys need a 3D motion designer who can animate, who can direct, and I'm like, yes, you have me, this is me, I fit you, but then US only, and I'm like, okay. That is like that is the issue I'm currently facing like right now. It's like, oh, I can't get work because most of these people are scared to work with someone in another time zone, or maybe I need to prove, like you said, being good is not enough. Like there's so many variables. It's like building relationships. It's like, do I have relationship with these people? Will they be willing to like take away the fact that they need someone in the same time zone as me, or someone, and just take that risk to actually like hire me, even with that time zone difference, and even with that economics difference, because it's not just time zone, it's like the economics of another country is totally different. It's like, to pay tax or not pay tax, how would the tax information work? And I don't think a lot of the studios don't just want to do the work and hire someone international, and I feel like I'm going to keep facing that issue for a long time until I find until I build like a network of people who will like trust me and I've been able to build a relationship with them. But for now, that is what I'm currently facing.
Yeah, well, I remember, we've worked with you and you've made content for School of Motion now. And I remember the first time we tried to pay you, I was shocked at how difficult it was. Like to be in the US and pay someone in Nigeria. It's like, I think our director of finance literally had to like go somewhere and talk to someone face to face, because I think part of it too is just that like there's been this history of like scammers based in Nigeria that try to scam people in the US. And so anytime you go to a bank and you're like, yeah, I need to wire money to Nigeria, the first thing they say is, wait a minute, are you sure that you're sending it to who you think? And we're like, yes, I actually talked to this person. I know.
And because the scammers can easily fake someone for you to talk to them. They can like create a money mule or something. And it's like they don't trust anyone anymore. And services like PayPal or even TransferWise don't work in Nigeria anymore. Like our government needs to ban them. So it's like these are constant issues that I have to face. And this is why a lot of youths in Nigeria are considering moving out, because then you just don't have to face these issues anymore. It's more or less like, oh, I'm already the most amazing motion designer in the world. I just need a place that allows me shine. But like, my problem is a lot of people, including myself, don't have the opportunity to just say, oh, fuck it, I hope I can cross on my own channel. I'm
cool with it.
I'm just going to like pack on my load and just get on a plane and move to another country. A lot of people don't have that opportunity. I don't have that opportunity. I'm just hoping to God that I get that opportunity. But like, that is something that you have to keep facing. And the funny thing is, we've not even like started the actual conversation. We're still talking about things we were talking about from last year. It's impressive.
This is all good stuff, though. I mean, I guess we probably should move on and talk about the future. But I mean, none of the things we talked about last time have been solved. And it's like, I just think it's good to like always be bringing this stuff up, and especially people in the US and people in Europe in these major markets. It's good to hear from someone who lives in Nigeria and is on a continent that like we typically don't think of in terms of motion design, and it's just good. It's good to be honest about like the challenges that you face that most of us don't. And you know, and it's not fair. And I wish there was like something that we could all do to just like fix it. But I think that you fix it slowly by doing exactly what you're doing, by bringing awareness to it. You know, finding friends like School of Motion and MoGraph Mentor, and I know you've talked with Haley and you've talked with Ben Marriott. It's like all of that is going to pay off. It's just going to take.
I'm going to talk to every single person that is big next year.
You should.
Next person should be Beeple. Only if Beeple would say yes. I'm just.
Maybe you could have him give you one of his NFTs, and then you won't have to work anymore. So.
Yeah, that would be exactly like Beeple. If you're hearing this, you probably are not, because we've not made that connection yet. I would love like those NFTs, just like collectibles you have. Maybe just one before it sells, like a private sale. I would really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Also, please come on my channel. I would really love to have you. Like that would be like the biggest bragging rights. Like, oh shit, I have people on my channel.
Yeah.
Before we move further,
you know, you made me think like NFTs are, you know, so we've been talking about this recently at School of Motion because we're getting ready to do our end of the year podcast. And one of the big things we want to talk about is what has the impact of NFTs been? You know, like they kind of got really, really big about a year ago, and now there was a bubble, it kind of popped, but now it's kind
balancing out.
It's kind of looking like it's looking like what I think it's going to look like long term. And one of the things that occurred to me was, you know, one of the most popular. There's this website now. I always mispronounce it, Hikatunk or something like that, and it's selling NFTs, but it's using this different currency called Tezos, and they, you know, it's much more affordable. Most of the artists there aren't getting rich off of it. However, if you're living in a country where the currency is worth less than the dollar, then maybe doing stuff like that becomes actually a pretty viable way to make money, you know, stuff like that. I'm curious what your take is.
I have a love, you know, we're actually added in the list of chats, like we're going to talk about NFTs, because I feel like NFTs are like a gateway drugs to becoming a motion designer. It's like someone like Beeple just does NFT. Now everyone is doing 3D. And I'm sure like when you start doing 3D, you wouldn't want to be like just doing that 3D unless that is really what you want. You would like start thinking of so much more, and it's like it leads you on this part like where you're like doing motion at the end of it. That's where I see it. That's how I picture it. But to start the conversation about NFTs, I have a very big love-hate relationship with NFTs. I have dropped 2 NFTs so far. Like the first one sold, the second one didn't sell, and it made me feel really bad because I had so much hopes for it. But then like I have a love-hate relationship. I love the technology, but I really hate the community. I really, really, really hate the community around NFTs. I feel like they add this like arbitrary value. Like they're like everything is not real, and there's like this arbitrary value being added to it, and it's like what is the most hype-worthy collection? It's like not which artist is like the best or which artist is doing the most substance. It's more or less like what has the most hype today, and that's just what keeps getting sold. And I feel like if we can stop making NFTs like a commodity like it is right now, and if it's really about making artists, like growing artists and building business and building this network, and it's not this commodity or this thing that is being filled on hype, I feel like it would be so much better than it is now.
Well, okay, so I have thoughts on this. Let's get into it.
Before you do though, I wanted to show you something.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I want to show you something.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get it. Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't know if you've seen it, but before you continue, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I got your book. I've been waiting to.
Oh, look at that!
Yeah, I was really hoping I could get like a signed copy from like one that has your signature, but like I'm probably going to ask you for it later. But yeah, I was trying to go get it, but like we can.
Yeah. When you come to Florida, I'll sign one.
Definitely. But yeah, we can continue the conversation about NFTs. What are your thoughts on what I think about the community?
Okay, so I totally get what you're saying, right? But again, it's funny because you said something earlier that made me think of this. It's like, I think as artists, especially in a field like motion design where it's commercial for the most part. You're selling your skills to brands so that they can sell more cars or whatever. It's nice to think that it's a meritocracy and that whoever makes the best art or who has the most skill that's how you're going to get noticed as an artist. And I think that is true at the very highest levels, right? I think no one can deny Ashthorpe or Gma
Yeah,
or
I can't deny them.
Joyce Ho, right? You can't deny people at that level. But for the rest of us, the rest of us mortals, I think once you drop below that top 0.001% where it's like undeniable, right? Well, then it becomes a lot more about your relationship building skills if we're talking about doing client work. Or as an NFT artist, it seems to be a lot more about the story that you can build around your art. And so I think Beeple's a good example. If you look at his work, he's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, right? But I don't think that's why his work is worth so much. Like, it's not the quality of the work that makes it that expensive. That has almost nothing to do with it. And proof of that is the NFT that he sold that was $69 million was a collage of, and in that collage was stuff that was literally like crappy sketches from 10 years ago. And the collage itself was interesting looking, but it wasn't like a beautiful work of art. It was more about this moment in time, and there's a story that you can tell around it about this guy named Mike Winkleman and who did something every day. That's what sells. And when I see NFT projects now, and I am trying to learn about this, I really do think I'm fascinated by it. The projects that seem to do well are ones where it's almost like Pokemon trading cards. Like there's some story behind it. There's an artist named, boy, I'm blanking on it. He makes these 3D renders of characters where it almost looks like a Picasso painting. It's like a 2D weird impressionist kind of looking thing, and it looks like it's sculpted out of clay, and everything's kind of drippy and gross looking. And he makes series of these characters, and so it's almost like you're collecting trading cards or something like that. And that's the kind of thing people can get excited about, like, oh, I collected this one. This one's rare. This one, he made 100 of them, and that's what sells. It doesn't matter how good the artwork is. So and personally, I am okay with that because I think it's a different thing. It's not so much about the art in most cases.
So like that's where I have an issue is like, okay, so what if I don't want to do trading cards? Like what if I don't want to do NFTs as trading card? What if I want to be more experimental? What if I want to tell a different stories, not the way everyone like who is hyping it up is saying? I'm basically putting my art at the mercy of a community that is thrilled on hype. And I don't want to put my art I did put my art at the mercy. This print I was showing you was from my NFT drop and it didn't sell. Like this is like 3 weeks of work, no sleep, and it didn't sell. And there was like I was like on countless of like talks with NFT collectors and NFT artists, and they were like, "Oh shit, this is going to be amazing." And it's like, "Oh, I saw this; it looks amazing." And it's like already hype built up, and it was like, "Oh, all that just went to shit on the day I dropped it." And I built a story around it.
Okay, but so
like, there was a story around it. It was like it was called Jellyfuse, and it's like this. I don't know if you've seen it. I remember you're currently like on like ghost mode. I'm going to send it to you now. But yeah.
Yeah, the print that you showed me with like the sort of floating jellyfish and I don't know if you can put it up on the screen so everyone watching can see it in the live stream. It's beautiful.
I will do that now so everyone can see.
Yeah, but let me give you. I'll just kind of brain dump on you like why maybe that didn't sell, right? So when I say there has to be a story behind it, and honestly, you should get someone on your show who really understands the NFT.
I did.
Because I don't.
David, David Brodeur. Really?
Oh, Brodeur. Oh yeah. Either one. Yeah. Brodeur also really understands it, and he's made a lot of money selling NFTs. But he's a great example. Hang on, he's a perfect example. Okay, so. Here's what I saw when NFTs became a thing and when people got like really fucking rich, right? From selling NFTs. there was a gold rush. And I saw a lot of artists in our industry scavenge their hard drive for old stuff that was cool looking just to throw it up and see if anyone bought it, right? Whereas David Brodeur, what I saw him do was he took all of these really cool renders he'd been doing over the years, and he had a lot of them. And he built this story around not like, oh, this is a creature and his name is Joey and he floats through the... No, it wasn't that. It was, I'm an artist named Locked and Loading, and I've been that artist for, 10 years, and I've done this body of work, and I'm gonna sell NFTs, and then I'm killing that artist, and I'll never make art as Locked and Loading again, and I'm gonna have a new name, and I'm not gonna reveal what that name is until I, sell this NFT. And he created this event around it and this artist persona, right? And that's something people can get excited about and feel ownership of. Oh my God, did you get one of Locked and Loading's last things before he changed his name? And it sounds kind of like, it can sound kind of like pretentious and artsy fartsy when you say it like that. But that is what art collectors want. They don't just want a pretty painting. They want a painting by an artist that went nuts and chopped his ear off. You know? Like there has to be something behind it.
So the danger is, what if you're an artist that don't want to chop your ear off? What if you're an artist that just wants to create the work for the love of creating the work? That means that puts you in the...
Then do that.
That's what I did.
Then do that.
I created the work for like the fact that
But maybe no one buys
exactly.
it.
That's my point. It's like it's based on you wanting to chop your head off. It's like I can compare it to like the perform. I've forgotten those kind of that art market where people do the most obnoxious thing, like tape a banana to the wall. I would compare it to that. It's like, I know for that market, people are not necessarily buying the banana tape to the wall. They're buying the license to tape a banana to the wall and call it that. But like, I'm comparing it to that. It's like, this is the craziest thing ever. And people are buying that because, like, okay, because I'm able to like create this arbitrary value for this art, and this artist could chop his ear off for this, I can sell this later for something so it becomes like a way to store wealth and not necessarily a way to celebrate the actual artist. And I feel pained for that because like I love my work. I put so much art into this, and I didn't get sales because I can't chop my ear off for a bunch of people that I don't really know and are just numbers on they're just numbers. Their Ethereum wallet is just numbers, a string of numbers. Like, it's crazy. I feel really pained by that.
But I think that's something. I think that's something that you can learn to get over that, because you're facing what you just described is like the universal truth of being an artist, which is what you want to make and what is just like in your heart that you want to just create and get out may not align with what somebody else wants to buy, right? That may just be the case. And so that's why that's always been the tension in our industry too. And that's why studios have always, historically, the best ones, they've done work that they want to do that no one pays them to do, and they do the work that they don't want to do but people pay them to. And you have to do both. If you're making NFTs and the point is to sell them, you have to make what people want to buy. And that doesn't necessarily just mean the visual. That means like the story behind it, right? And I can think of 10 ideas of things you could do that I know people would buy. But you may not want to make them.
Yeah, but then so the danger with that is that there's also this idea around that says, make something, you would definitely find someone who aligns with that. So why haven't I found someone who aligns with jellyfish yet? So it's like...
Well, no. So you're mixing up two things. You could definitely find somebody who aligns and likes that artwork. And if you made a series of those, I bet you'd find people that really like them and might even buy prints of them. But somebody liking it and someone thinking it's worth $1,800 in Ethereum, that may not exist, right?
Yeah.
Because what are they buying? The way that the images I saw and the way you've kind of talked about it, it's simply a piece of art you made, right? That's fine. That's it. Versus, okay, I'm making a series of jellyfish, and I'm going to make one jellyfish for each country in Africa. And I'm going to use the colors from that country's flag, and the scene around them is going to evoke something from that country, and there's going to be a 1 of 1 for Nigeria and 5 of every other country, right? Now, and I'm an African artist, and I'm doing this to help raise awareness about the fact that there's a million awesome artists in Africa and we never talk about it. Now you have a story that someone can get behind, and the artwork itself can be beautiful and really awesome, but also a good way of looking at it is someone who buys an NFT, I mean, they're buying it because it makes them feel a certain way and they're supporting something, but also it's like a flex.
Yeah.
They can show it off. It shows up on their profile. And if they can say, yeah, I bought this. This is the 1 of 1 from Olamide, and you know, this is the Nigerian jellyfish. I think that's kind of cool, and that's a story that you might be able to, you know, to get collectors into. But you can't just think of it as the image is pretty, why won't you pay money for it? Because I don't think it's enough in that space.
Yeah, that's why I feel like I don't fit in that space. That's why I publicly announced that I would no longer be dropping NFTs till a later date. Because I feel like the technology could be so much more than just the art. I feel like, imagine like, I had this idea earlier this year because I have shitty internet. I was like, making an internet isn't really that difficult. Like, the internet is essentially just a bunch of computers connected, and you sharing that connection with radio waves. That's essentially what the internet is. It's not that difficult to build your own network. I was like, okay, what if I start my own internet company, but then I fund it with NFTs? So it's like, you buy an art, but then you're not buying just an art. You're buying shares into a company. Like, I'm trying this idea out for anybody who wants to fund their company that way. Like, that is another way to buy, like, that's another thing we could use NFTs for. It shouldn't just be about art. Like, you could fund, like, imagine if startups are no longer being funded with the VCs and all, and you're like doing your Series A on like an Ethereum platform. Like, think about that. That would be amazing. I'm thinking about NFTs more than just art. I feel like we should stop thinking about it as a tool for artists and start thinking about it as a tool in general. I think people has the same opinion where he was talking about owning an house and just be a certificate of ownership being an NFT. And I feel like that would be so much cooler. I feel like that would integrate into everything we do way better than just this baseball cards on the internet type of thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that the things that are most exciting to me about NFTs, there's a website called royal.io, which it's a music site, and the idea behind it is that an artist can release a song or essentially kind of crowdfund a song if they want to, or an album, and you buy an NFT which entitles you to a share of the royalties from that song. Right, and it's all done with smart contracts, right? So that's a really useful thing, because if you write a song and I think it's awesome and I buy 1 of 10 NFTs entitling me to some of the royalties, and that song blows up, I get royalties, but also I can now sell the NFT to somebody else, and maybe it's worth more. So it becomes this really interesting investment vehicle that lets.
And that changes like the music industry. The music industry is the most fucked industry in the entire world, and it's like, oh, like artists no longer need the labels anymore. It's more or less like, we have a goal, we have a financial goal for this track, we have a budget, we have a promotion budget, and it's like, you guys are going to fund this, and you buy an NFT and you get a percentage of my cut, and then I'm projecting and making this amount of money. And it's more like a business tool than the digital version of the already corrupt art market type of thing. And I feel like the application of NFT is what I'm more excited for. And I can't wait. Maybe I would start a company and fund it that way. Maybe we would see how it works. Maybe we could do something together.
Well, if you do it, let me know. I'd love
that
to
would be
buy
so
an
cool.
NFT.
Buy my current NFT.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll invest in you. I might not buy the jellyfish NFT, but
that would be so. I feel like that really ties into like where you said you need. Oh, shit, I'm still sharing my screen. Okay, let me stop sharing my screen. Let me transition back to that scene. Yeah, am I still sharing my screen? Thank you, Andrew, for reminding me that I was still sharing my screen.
Oh, and Andrew's a good guy.
Yeah.
That was good. Someone else might have let you just keep that.
Yeah, and I was like sharing so much more, and it was so weird. But yeah. I can't wait for like how NFTs evolve. I feel like they shouldn't be just like this art too, and I can't wait to see how you guys apply NFTs and I can't wait to see what you talk about in your end of the year stream. I hope I get featured. I'm just putting it out there on your head. I hope I could be a part of it. But yeah, let's see how it goes. Let's see how it goes.
Gotcha. All right. Well, listen, maybe I'll give you a shout out.
Yes, I actually would love to be part of the conversation. I feel like there's so much we could talk about. But yeah, let's. Okay.
Let's keep going.
I wanted to say we've actually talked about like the third question. Sorry, like the fourth question in my list of questions. And if it was like the fourth thing. But like, let me go back to the first one, which is what does it mean to be a motion designer in 2021? I feel like it means I don't think it means a totally different thing. I think it means the same thing. But I think like everything has changed so much. And even with NFTs and like the way the industry has evolved, I feel like we might have to really redefine it in a way. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love this question. And this is actually one of the big questions we're going to talk about in our end of the year podcast. So I don't think that let me think how to describe it. So I'm 40, okay?
I'm 20.
So I've been in this industry. Yeah, right. So I'm literally twice your age. So I've been in the industry about 20 years. Really not that long, maybe like 17. And there was always this feeling for me when I was coming up and I was learning about motion graphics or motion design where it felt like this small kind of club. And you had studios that everyone knew about. And you had MK12 and PsyOp and Shiloh and Stardust and Royale and companies like that. And you had artists like J.R. Canis and G-Monk and David Lewandowski and people like that, Karen Fong. And so when I started saying motion design, and I was teaching motion design at a college, and then I started School of Motion, and you know, we have illustration for motion design, we'd say it over and over again. It felt like we were talking about this club of people who use After Effects and use Cinema 4D and do the kind of work that we do. And so what I feel like is different now is back then, people who did this kind of work basically only had a few outlets for it. It was TV, if you were working in like broadcast. You could work on films maybe at the high end. Lots and lots and lots of ads, commercials, and then on the internet, stuff like that. But now, you've also got social media. You've also got apps that have...
You've got web experiences, which is the next frontier for me.
Yeah, you've got web experiences, AR, VR... I was just talking with EJ yesterday, and he was saying that like if you go to Facebook and Google's job boards, they're looking for tons and tons of 3D artists, specifically with experience in Unreal and Unity and doing sort of this more real-time stuff. You've got video editors, basically 100% of whom have to know some After Effects now and be able to do things. Now, all of that is motion design, every single bit of it. But when I say motion design, that's not what I think of, right? So the way it feels to me, and this could just be subjective, but it feels like motion design has always been this very kind of fuzzy idea, but if you know what it is, you know what it is. And now I don't know what it is anymore. Because if I look at, you know, if I pull out, I have a fasting timer on my phone because I'm doing intermittent fasting now. And so if I pull it out, there's like this nice little animation, right? Like the little timer kind of has a nice ease to it. Somebody animated that, right? Somebody animated that. And I don't know what app they used. I don't know if it was designed in Figma and then animated in something like Facial or, you know, Rive. I mean, who knows, right? So, and it doesn't matter. They used a nice animation curve, right? It's so, the principles are the same. The application is so different. Would the person that did that, would they call themselves a motion designer? My guess is no. Right? Or they might say I'm a UX designer. They might say I'm an interaction designer, right? And so I feel like the tent that we all have been living under just grew a lot. And so that's why I say it's, you know, I think it has changed. And I don't think it changed instantly. I think it's been changing the whole time. It's just that now I'm realizing, oh my gosh, I look around and I see the kind of work that's being done in the apps that are being used, you know, and the way those apps are being used, and it's like, wow, something's changed. It's gotten, you know, it's just gotten bigger.
You know, the crazy thing is all these roles have always existed. They were just not obvious, and they were just very, very specialized. And you had to be like the most passionate person to be doing that. But now it feels like it's all these roles are now like more accessible, and it's like not that difficult to learn a lot of all these things. And before I continue any further, I'd like to give a shout out to the guys at Fable, specifically Ashley and Kenta from Fable. Like, these guys are amazing people. And congratulations on like the 50 million seed round. I'm super excited for everything you guys are doing. And my channel is going to be like all about Fable in the next few months, so we'll see how that goes.
Really? Well, listen, man. So this morning, I tried Fable for the first time. I'd never actually used it, and I saw the news about the Series A, and so I went on. I signed up for a free account, and I played around with it for 15 minutes. And I have to say, it's pretty damn.
It feels
good.
like an easier version of the After Effects. It feels like
Well, so I'll say this. It as an After Effects user, it was really easy to pick up. I had no problem figuring it out. And there's some things about it, the way it works, that I think are better than After Effects. Like you can group layers together, and then like in the timeline, it's like there's a lot of little things like that, and it's.
I was going to say like I and someone from my design community were fighting about this one, and I was saying like. I was making a joke about Adobe shouldn't step outside once Fable is like at its full power, because Fable is coming up with features that I think are going to change the whole industry, like, and they already have the features. It's just in like their vaults. That's what I would say.
Yeah, they like if they had a good graph editor built in, and I'm sure that's coming. I'm sure that'll happen. That right now, at least maybe I didn't know how to use it right, but it seemed like the best you had was basically you select keyframes, and then you have almost like a flow interface where you can just define the curve between those two keyframes. But I want like a full graph.
I feel like they have that, and they haven't just.
I could totally
I feel like they have that, and they just have like a lot of features. Like they've been on beta for a while. It's not like they just randomly came up and it's like, oh, Fable now. It's like they've been at it for a while, and they've just not been promoting it as much, and they've just been in beta. And I feel like everything you can imagine, they probably have it, and they're just keeping it under lock at the moment. But yeah, I'm super excited for them. And why we talk about Fable is because like imagine being able to just you and like your entire team are collaborating on one like project, and there's no complicated file transfer system that we normally have with After Effects, and you have to like resync the audio, resync everything, and everything is just cloud based. I feel like that would give, and it's actually good. It's really, really good. I would give Adobe a run for its money. And I feel like Fable is on its path to becoming like the Figma of Africa. I don't know if you know, Figma is like the biggest design tool in Africa right now, like almost getting bigger than like XD in the user experience space. Figma is like the biggest. It's just king, and it just had a better value proposition than XD. And it just had a better value proposition for Africans. And Fable seems like it has a better value proposition because, okay, imagine to become a motion designer, you need a very powerful computer. You're just starting out. You can't afford a powerful computer, but then you can afford the internet. And Fable is cloud-based, so it just makes more sense to use Fable than using like After Effects. And that's just like that alone is like it is like value enough for me to just ditch After Effects completely. The fact that I don't need the craziest computer, the fact that I don't need the best CPU or GPU is enough for me to ditch After Effects.
Yeah, so there's a couple things there. So one, I think so I use Figma a lot. I love it. It's right. And I think everybody who uses Photoshop should use Figma for a little bit, just because it works totally differently and it does not replace Photoshop at all. Like it cannot do what Photoshop does. However, the way it works is the way software is going to work in the future. It will not work like Photoshop and Premiere and things like that, where it's all built around this model of you have a local repository of files and then this program manipulates those files. That concept just disappears when you do these cloud-based things. And I can imagine how Fable will eventually get there. Right now, I don't even think you can import video files into it.
No, I think you could.
You can import bitmap textures. Maybe you can.
I think you could. It's just
video. I thought I read something like it's coming soon. They haven't like maybe implemented it yet. But regardless, once you have, because this is something we run into all the time at School of Motion, we have multiple editors. One's in Montana, one's in Rhode Island. And so how do they edit the same thing when you have these gigantic files? Right now, we're using Frame.io, which is pretty amazing for that. However, in the future, and we're actually talking to this company, I think tomorrow, there's a company you might be interested. They're called sweetstudios.io.
Why is everyone using the IO?
And because it's cool. It sounds cool. .io. And it's a virtual computer in the cloud, right? So stuff like this has existed for a while where, okay, I have a cheap computer or a laptop or something, and I can log into this website and control a computer that's 100 times as expensive and just see the screen, basically. But they're doing it at scale, and they're making it for video professionals, right? Like, I think they're starting where it's basically like a Premiere edit station in the cloud. But what's great about that is you could have two of them, and the footage can be shared between them, but the editors are across the world, and it doesn't matter what computer they have. And as GPUs and things like that get upgraded, you don't have to upgrade your system because the cloud computer gets upgraded, and then you just log into it, and it's faster now. And I remember, I feel the same way about this I did about Blu-rays. I remember when Blu-ray discs came out, and I was like, you know what? Pretty soon everything's just going to stream over the internet. And then Netflix came out, and so I basically had the foresight to skip buying a Blu-ray player. I think it's going to be the same thing here. This is inevitable. I'm telling you. Eventually, most people who, I think eventually 3D artists, a lot of them are not going to have their own system with 8 GPUs in it. I think it's going to be done this way where they're paying a subscription, $100 a month or whatever, and they have the fastest computer at all times that can instantly scale up as big as they need it. And I think that's the way it's going.
I was going to say, what would, all the software companies like Adobe and Maxon and Otoy and whatever company that we can think of are going to be forced to do a version of their subscription that is for cloud-based systems. And it's just inevitable. And all these companies that are beating them to it, like Figma is like the biggest winner in that space. It just made it easy to be a user experience designer. I basically, a friend of mine was getting angry because I called user experience designers cockroaches because they're just too much. Because they're just too much in this country. I'd be like, why can't I find be a motion designer, forget UI UX. But it's because it's so accessible. It's now very accessible. I wish the motion space was like that, and I see Fable being that solution. That's why I'm personally backing it with all my energy. I'm going, whether I get their support to back or not, I'm going to back them because it just makes it easier to be a motion designer. There's no you need a powerful computer, you need to go and buy this software. It's just Fable.app, log on straight and just start new work. Let's work on a project. Let's use Fable. Let's do a quick ad. We can once that feature of video comes in, it's I did some renders here. Let's add it to it. Let's make the edit in Fable and boom, this is a platform for the future of motion designers, I think, and I personally backing them. And
and eventually you'll click a button and your Figma design will come over, and it'll be parametric inside.
They have a feature that is coming, which is you're being able to export Lottie files straight out from Fable. So it's Adobe has to install the Lottie plugin to export Lottie files. This is more positioned for Africa. This app is a best position for taking the African market. Makes the software easy. They already have a course that gets you started immediately, and it's just way easier. And I'm glad I heard about it before everybody else. So it's oh shit, I found out about these guys before you guys. I've had conversations with these guys before everybody else in the world. Yay. I'm sorry, I'm just bragging.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of apps like that have come out over the years. There was Haiku, which was basically an animation app that was designed for natively spitting out code instead of pixels. There's Flow, which is another app like this. There's I'm forgetting the name. I think there's Autograph, is this web-based compositing tool, and now there's Fable. And what impressed me about Fable, because I've tried almost all of them. I haven't tried Autograph, but I've tried the other ones. Fable was the first one that like it felt like After Effects to me. It just was so easy to pick up, and I really couldn't believe the performance of it. Like it's completely real time, and I'm sure that breaks at some point. But I don't know. You can like if you think about 80% of what you have to animate these days with like shapes and type and some textures and this and that. It can do it all real time. You're just hitting play and it just goes, and then you're tweaking things. I mean, it's crazy. And as someone who's used After Effects
for years,
basically my entire career, it's like it's wild. Like that, I'm not used to that.
you're used to like waiting for it to buffer
really
for a bit, and then like let it play.
Yeah.
But now it's like.
Yeah, and you learn all these tricks too, right? Like it's like, okay, you set it to half resolution, and then you render every other frame. And actually now the newest version of After Effects is so much faster.
It's like Adobe is still
of the multi-frame rendering. I mean, it's night and day, but
it's like Adobe is still like, oh, we're trying to push performance with After Effects. We're like, Fable is like, oh yeah, we're real time. They're like,
right, yeah, just real time.
It's just a
yeah, and I think too, I wouldn't underestimate Adobe though. Like they're they're just such a giant company. They cannot move fast. It's just impossible for something that size to move fast. But they're pretty smart strategically.
Yeah.
And I think that they acquired Frame.io this year for like $1 billion or like $1.25 billion or something like that. So it's some giant sum of money. And my guess is they're doing that because Frame.io is one of the pieces they need to solve the problem of how do we get people editing video in the cloud, right? Because that's the future. In the future, you're not going to have a giant hard drive next to your computer with all your footage on it. It's going to be in the cloud. You're going to edit it there, hit a button, and now it's on YouTube. That's it's coming.
Give me a sec. I need to fix my light. Just don't stop talking.
Oh, it's all good. So I think that's one thing. And then I'm trying to remember where I was going with this. So you've got okay. So Adobe is also very aware of apps like Figma and stuff like that. I think that the infrastructure you need to make something like that work at scale is very different than what they currently have. But I know some of the team over there, and I think they're they see the writing on the wall too. They know that's how it's going. It's going to be really interesting. I think that the network effect that Adobe has, meaning so many people have created today. They know the apps inside now. They have muscle memory for the hotkey, and all of them work together.
I think
that's hard to beat.
I think the other thing would be like all these people who are already used to the Adobe ecosystem. The other thing would be like getting them to an ecosystem like Fable. That is why I say Fable is perfect for the African like perfect for Africa, because I don't have to force all these people to transition to Fable. I just start them out using Fable, and then you start seeing studios who start out like who are using Fable, and it's just a better system because these guys are starting their careers with Fable. They're starting their careers with something that is cloud-based. That is how a lot of UX designers are in Nigeria. A lot of them have never been in Illustrator before, and it blows my mind when I see a designer who has never been in Illustrator before. And I'm like, how have you not seen Illustrator? How have you not tried opening Illustrator? And I feel like that's where I imagine the motion design space would be. And I want to pioneer that. I want to use Fable. I want to switch to Fable. Like maybe not permanently, but like a lot of my animations, like a lot of type animations that I want to do would be done on Fable because it's just a better tool for some things. After Effects is still a juggernaut in the space, but it has more potential than any software I've seen. And I don't think they can easily just take Adobe out of the operation immediately. But they don't have to. That's the point. It's like they don't have to be in competition with Adobe because they can just build their own markets in places like Africa or India where these systems are not really already in place. Like it's not really rigid. People didn't grow up, like people didn't start their career using After Effects. They're just starting the career. So it's like, this is the next generation of motion designers for me. Using all these new tools.
Yeah, well, I think what I think is cool too is like it kind of at a high level, the way these cloud softwares work, it gets rid of these old mental models that we have about software. right? The idea of a file, and there's an
Yeah.
icon, and that icon lives in a folder, and the folder's on your hard drive. That kind of goes away.
Yes.
And so I can imagine if you're a social media content creator and you work with a motion designer to create this amazing Instagram template in Fable, and Fable comes up with their version of Mogurt files, to where you can now just basically give somebody a little form and they type in a couple of things and then it renders out the thing. But now there's no file. I mean, there is somewhere, but it's just a link.
Yes.
Here's the link to the thing you just made. And that can automatically be put on Instagram, or, you know, posted out or put on TikTok, whatever, it doesn't matter. And you can use APIs, and there's a lot of tools now, like no-code tools, where you could very easily plug things together and make these really elaborate kind of systems, all based on the cloud. You can run it from an iPad. It's pretty crazy. I actually recently got into, there's this really cool app called Plainly. Plainly. Plainlyapp.com, I think. I might be wrong with the URL, but it's called Plainly. What it is, it's an API where you upload an After Effects project to it, and inside the After Effects project, you know, you can have type layers or whatever you want, video files, doesn't matter, and then you can present this form, and it's basically letting you create almost like a Mogurt file in the cloud.
Wow.
But you can feed it anything. You can feed it. So what I did was, as an experiment, I said, I wonder if I could make a bot for the School of Motion Slack channel, where if I don't know if you use Slack.
I use Slack all the time.
You can put so you know how you can put emojis
Yes.
on things. So if you put a tomato emoji on someone's message, it'll grab their picture, it'll use Plainly, and I found stock footage of a tomato hitting someone in the hitting something in the a pane of glass, and I composited it and made a project. So now you click the tomato emoji, and a minute later, this video pops up with your face and a tomato hitting you in the face. And it's like, it's really hard and labor intensive right now to do stuff like that, because you have to plug 7 things together. But if it's all in the cloud already, and it's a cloud first app, stuff like that becomes comically easy. And you can do I feel like there's going to be stuff where you'll be on Twitter and you'll tweet something to an account, and based on what word you said, it'll respond with a video, and and it'll be customized for you, and all of that can be done in Fable. Right now it can be done using Plainly and After Effects.
I feel like
so I think there's going to be some cool automation.
I feel like next challenge will be integrating all these cloud-based tools together, because the next generation of motion designers are cloud-based. I feel like someone posted a comment saying what about for 3D? I feel like we've tested a little bit of that with MetaHumans. Have you tried MetaHumans by Epic Games?
No, I haven't. There was a time years ago where I actually was using Unity a little bit for some client work and some experiments, but I stopped using it, and it's been years since I've touched it. But I've seen the MetaHumans demo, and it's pretty amazing.
Completely cloud-based 3D and real time. So it's all on the cloud. You're not using your computer. You're just streaming it to your desktop, and you're controlling it all on your computer. So imagine if Otoy released a version of Octane that is cloud-based, and it syncs with your Cinema 4D scene, and then you're rendering it on their server somewhere, and you have to pay a difference. That is a future I want. Otoy, if you're hearing this, I'm patenting this idea. I'm owning this idea in case you want to steal it, so you have to pay me a percentage for it, because I know you guys are rich and all.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I think they'll pay you. I think that'll hold up. Yeah. So to talk about the 3D thing, I think there's kind of 2 revolutions happening at the same time. So one is Blender, and EJ and I talk about this a lot, and just internally at School of Motion, and at some point we will be teaching Blender. There's no question. The big question is Blender ever going to overtake Cinema 4D as the 3D package that motion designers use? My gut, if I'm being honest, is yes.
I feel like
now,
it already
I think it's going to take a long time. Maybe I think in certain areas it has already, right?
Can I go back to that thing where I said new generation of motion designers? Sorry, we don't really need to change all the people who already use Cinema 4D. We don't need to ask them to change. they would eventually want to change
Right.
themselves. Like this is like a new generation. So like we're training a new generation of people who have never touched Cinema 4D before, training them how to use Blender. And that's just how it starts. Like we don't have to tell all these people to replace Cinema 4D with Blender. Like you go on Twitter every day and you see someone doing something crazy with Blender and you just ask yourself, how?
Yeah.
I don't know if you see it on your feed or it's just my feed, but it's like, how?
No, I see that stuff too, but I think like if when I was coming up in the industry, Cinema 4D I think was on, I don't know, version 6 or
Yeah.
something when I kind of learned about it, right? And at the time it was like, no, Cinema 4D is a toy. If you're serious, you're going to use Maya, or you're going to use Softimage or 3D Studio Max. And it took about 10 years, but frankly, because of the leadership of Paul Babb, who was the sort of the head of the marketing arm for Maxon, and now he's in a leadership position there. He, through sheer force of will, made Cinema 4D the thing you use, and drove a lot of the decisions about, you know, what features they added and stuff like that. They added the MoGraph tools, and then that sort of like spun off an entire new style in you know 3D art in our industry.
Yes.
And so I think it will take that long. I think it will take 10 years. But you're 100% correct. If you're a kid right now and you want to learn some 3D animation, you're not getting Cinema 4D. You're getting Blender. And there's a ridiculously like broad community of Blender users, and there's YouTube channels, and there's, you know, websites, and there's classes. I know MoGraph Mentor had a couple of Blender classes. Eventually we will. And so it's just as accessible, I think, to learn as Cinema 4D. Now, I haven't used it, and the videos I've watched of it make it look like the UX is not quite as polished and dialed in
It's
as
so
Maxon,
much
but,
better. Like
you
the new
know,
versions, the new latest versions. I was like, I and
yeah.
EJ were ranting about this 2 days ago. I was asking him, would he go for Blender? I was like, what's killing him is the interface. I was like, the interface looks that bad because you're used to Cinema 4D. And Blender has gotten so much better. And Cinema 4D's interface looks like that. Like, have you seen the latest version of Cinema 4D? It's R25.
Yeah,
It feels
yeah.
like a clone of Blender in a way. So it's like this interface that we're shitting on, Maxon is practically just taking inspiration from it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know how these conversations go internally at Maxon. I mean, I would assume that Blender is something they're looking very closely at, because the business model of Blender is incredible to me. You give the software away, you have this foundation basically that you go out and you find donors. Like Apple is now helping to fund Blender, right? That's just wild to me that works, and frankly that it works so well. And so I think that right now what Maxon has to do is figure out how to either make Cinema 4D so much better, there's
I
some
don't
killer thing that it can do that Blender can't do, or they have to, you know, or they'll be competing with an app that's just as powerful but also free, and that's really
I
difficult.
think they don't have to do that. They could just do what Adobe Apple have done and just support Blender. Like it's not a competition of who is best. Like if they support Blender, it just make them more better, and it just introduces and they integrate Blender with Cinema 4D and makes like the integration better. Introduces this new generation to this old man's tool called Cinema 4D. I'm basically saying everyone who uses Cinema 4D is old. You guys posted a video of like a 12-year-old creating a short film in Blender a few months ago, a few weeks ago, and it's like, how can this boy do this with Blender? Like this is like high level stuff, and everyone who thinks Cinema 4D would like remain the same should just sit down. I think
Yeah, well, what I was gonna say was I think that the way all of these tools are going, right? So like Blender versus Cinema 4D, that's kind of one story. I think the bigger story is how accessible 3D is going to be in the
yeah,
future. Because, you know, when I was coming up in the industry, it was very hard to get into 3D because there's such a big learning curve. You know, to make things look photorealistic, you have to understand so much about lighting and scene scale and texturing and modeling. and then compositing, and then you start animating things, and you realize that that's really difficult too, and rigging. And now you've got the tools have gotten so much easier to use, but even more than that, the ecosystem around them. If you get Grayscale Gorilla Plus, you basically never have to make a material again. Like they just give you, thousands of materials. Hey, I want something that looks like the bark of a pine tree with a little bit of dew on it, and they have that, and you just throw it on a cylinder, and you're done. Oh, but I also want an outdoor light. I want it to feel like the sun streaming through some trees. Okay, here's an HDRI, and here's a gobo, and here's a light setup, and you're just dragging and dropping. And you don't actually have to understand how all of that works under the hood anymore, and you can still make super high level stuff. And I think that all of the tools now are being built with that in mind. And then you combine that with the real-time nature of things like Unity and Unreal, and frankly, even like some of the renderers. Doesn't Blender come with a renderer that's a real-time renderer?
Yes, it does.
That just like comes with it, right? So I think very, very soon you're gonna have such an easy time making photorealistic real-time stuff in 3D that it's really gonna and maybe it's happening in the cloud, right? To where now you can just like click share and copy a link into Slack, and then your buddy can open it and add stuff to it. It's going to be really interesting to see how that starts to get used when literally anybody can make photorealistic 3D and there's no rendering. It's just real time. And, and then combine that with something like Fable. Let's put a type animation on top. It gets really interesting when you start thinking about how do these things all play together in the future, and what are the systems that can be built on top of that,
I feel like I can't wait to see how everything evolves. Like I'm so excited about it. I'm so excited about Blender. I have been going back and forth between Blender and Cinema 4D. I think we were just chatting about that earlier. Like I can't really decide which one to be using going forward. The only reason why I'm using Cinema 4D is because of its MoGraph tools. And I feel like if the MoGraph tools didn't exist, I would be using Blender. But then Blender just launched the advanced version of a tool they've been teasing all year, which is geometry nodes. And geometry nodes is like, imagine if MoGraph, like the MoGraph tools were node based. So it's like, that is what geometry nodes is. And it has like way cooler nodes. So it's like, wow, this is so advanced. And I've been seeing what people have been doing with geometry nodes, and it's just out of this world. And now I'm like, oh my God, maybe I should sit down and patiently learn geometry nodes and do some advanced stuff. Maybe I wouldn't need Cinema 4D anymore. And it was just...
Yeah, I doubt. I mean, at this point, I don't know Blender at all, but I doubt that there's many things that it can't do that Cinema 4D can't do. And I know there's a lot of things that it can do that C4D can't. Now, I also know Maxon is filled with geniuses, and so I know they're developing new features and all of that. I think right now what Cinema 4D has going for it is a very strong network effect. You've got, just tons of artists that know it really well inside and out. And so like for someone like me, if I was still doing client work, I would probably feel some pressure to learn Blender, but also I'm going to be 100 times slower in Blender than I am in Cinema 4D because I know that app really, really well.
I feel like...
And so I'm not going to switch, right? But newer artists are not going to learn Cinema 4D unless there's...
Exactly. It's like you're not the target market anymore.
Yeah.
Like with...
Yeah.
You're not the target... Like the target market are like... You don't even do client work anymore, so it really doesn't matter. So like...
I know, it doesn't matter what I say anyway, but...
the target market is... The target market is that 12-year-old boy somewhere on the internet learning 3D. Target market is someone like me who is broke and can't afford to pay $100 every month. I'm broke in case anybody has work for me. I do awesome 3D work. Just putting out there. I'm available for December.
We my wife helped start up a school. So we homeschool our kids. Then we're part of a big homeschool community. But so we founded like this group, and we have a building and stuff. And the kids there, a lot of them are into animation, but they're not thinking in terms of Adobe and all of that stuff. They're thinking in terms of Procreate. Yes. Some of them know about Blender. A lot of them want to learn Blender so that they can make 3D models to use with Roblox, which is like this gigantic game that they all play. And so, and these tools like Procreate, you just need an iPad and it costs, $30 or something, and then you have it. And now you can paint on 3D models inside
Yes.
of it. You can do frame by frame animation. I mean, and it's like, it's a cool time to be getting into this. It's a tricky time to be figuring out which horse to back, really.
Yeah,
like
it is a tricky time.
If you're a studio trying to figure it out, it's tricky, but more options is always a good thing.
Yeah, I feel like if you're trying to get a job and you're not, like, if you're trying to like be a freelancer and be your own person, it's easy to like say, oh, I'm going to use just Blender and Houdini and one of all the software. But if you're choosing to work for a studio, you have to be like the old people who use Cinema 4D. You guys are all old. I'm going to pretend as if I don't use Cinema 4D and just call you.
We're all old, and we all have like achy backs and stuff. And it's not gonna happen to you. You're gonna be 20 your whole life. Don't worry.
Definitely.
About it.
Yeah, like all this.
Old only happens to other people.
Old only happens to people who use Cinema 4D, minus me.
Exactly. Yeah. If you use Blender, it's like the fountain of youth.
Like it's amazing, and I can't wait to see how it evolves. I can't wait to see how softwares are going to be used in the next few months. I feel like software is like the biggest part of our conversation today. Surprisingly, softwares and inclusivity.
Well, look, I got like 14 more minutes. So what else we got? Let's do.
Okay, let's look at the list of questions I have. I think we've already answered most of them. It's like everything is like the same question, but like a different question at the same time. It's like while we're ranting about different things, we covered most of all my questions, all the questions that I would be asking.
I wonder if anyone in the chat has questions.
Yes, that would be nice.
I'm gonna start scrolling through. Yeah, I see. Oh, Jacob, thank you for the compliment about the book. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Let's see.
What
does Mike say? Mike says, if Blender is better and free, I'd stop paying for C4D.
Blender is better and free.
Listen, man, that's what Maxon's afraid of. I mean, I think in general, competition's good. It's like it's good to have other people out there competing with you because it just keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
I know that's true for School of Motion, and I also know that the team at Maxon's amazing. So they're not resting on their.
Okay, so can I ask some School of Motion specific questions? Yeah. It's like, what is the future for you guys? I feel like I mentioned earlier that I worked with MoGraph Mentor for like 4 months this year, and it was amazing. I genuinely don't take this the wrong way. I genuinely think MoGraph Mentor has some.
No, be honest.
I genuinely think MoGraph Mentor is like so much, like has so much going on. But at the same time, I feel like where MoGraph Mentor isn't doing it, where you beat MoGraph Mentor is because you have like the software and you have like a better business structure. So, like, what is the future of School of Motion, and what do you guys have in your vault that... I don't think your vault is super secret, though, but, like, what do you have in... Are you guys like Apple, that you have, like, a very tight-knit vault?
Yeah, we have snipers, that if you... yeah. No, so I think at the beginning of this conversation, I was saying, like, it was a challenging year professionally, not for any, like, scary business reason, but just because it's, like... School of Motion has grown to the size it is now because we figured out how to take online training and make it way, way better and more engaging and more effective and interactive and all of those things. And we figured out how to do it in a way that makes business sense and is scalable. And so, we can have, I think we've had a session before with more than 2,000 people in it.
Wow.
And every single one of those students can turn in homework and get critique and talk to each other and all of that. And so then the question becomes, is everything that we want to teach supposed to be taught that way? Because to teach things that way requires teaching assistants and a staff. And now we also do every Friday for our classes, we do these things called lunch hours, where they're basically like 1 hour kind of live chats with me or EJ or someone on.
I was looking for that earlier when I first took your course. Was like I feel like when I work with MoGraph Mentor, the biggest selling point is the fact that you're able to talk to your teacher and there's like this conversation and you're like, it feels more interactive and it feels more personal and you're learning so much more. Like when you record a course, like there's all the nuances, all the nuances when I chat with you, all the little things, all the expressions, I don't get them. in a course, and it's like when you have that, I feel like that's where MoGraph Mentor beats you guys, is those little nuances. So now that you say you've introduced a live chat, like a weekly live session, I'm starting to like maybe take back my statement. Because like
No, it's okay. And honestly, like and I'll admit too. So the way I think about it is you have like a spectrum of learning, and on this side you've got a class you buy on Gumroad and you download the video and that's it, and you watch it or you don't, right? And then over here you have MoGraph Mentor,
yes,
where I guess even past that, maybe you hire one-on-one, a coach or something like that. But MoGraph Mentor, at least as far as I know, their model has always been you have a group of maybe 6 or 7 or 8 students and one mentor, and you have a Slack channel or Discord or something with that mentor, and then you also get to have like a few hours a week,
yes,
with basically like a Zoom call with them, right? And they're helping you and critiquing your stuff. And that's amazing. The downside of that, right, is really just in terms of scaling that experience. And so
that is it. Scaling.
Right? That's it, right? And so frankly, the initial reason that I didn't go that route, and actually here I'll tell you a story. So we used to, when we just started School of Motion and running classes, we did live streams every single week, just like MoGraph Mentor, okay? And I was running all of them because there was no one else. And so every week, I would do 1 or 2 live streams for the class, and I would open up homework, and I would take questions, and they'd be 2 hours long and all that. And then we started growing, and we had classes that I wasn't qualified to teach, and we needed other people to run those live streams. And we found that like to find someone who can do a good live critiquing session, who can fit that into their schedule, who likes teaching, who wants to be basically signed up for 8 or 9 of these things in a row, very hard to find.
You can hire me.
And all it takes, yeah, and as you know from this afternoon, right? Like when you're doing these live things too, the technology, no matter how good it is, always fails.
Ridiculous.
Right? And so we ended up getting away from that. And then as we've grown, I'm really glad we did that, because there's absolutely no way I know of that we could create a consistent experience with live built into it the way MoGraph Mentor does it. So I think that and the way I look at MoGraph Mentor has never been like we're competing with them, right? I guess technically we are.
No, you're not.
But Mike's a friend of mine. We've hung out, and I just see it as they're on a different part of the spectrum than we are. And for some people, they should go to, and we still do it, but it's like we send students back and forth all the time, Mike and I, because he knows that if you know After Effects and you want to practice animation, that
works
model
better.
Would be great, but it's also maybe overkill. Maybe you don't need that much interaction. Maybe you need something more slow motion. And if you need to learn something really specific, right? How the sampling inside of Octane works, maybe you don't even need what we have. Maybe you just need a Domestika class or something, right? So I think it's good that you have these options, and there's pros and cons to each of it. So I'm not sure necessarily I would say MoGraph Mentor is better in this way. I would say their model has these features that are pros and these features that are cons, just like ours. The pros with us is we can create a really consistent, scalable experience. The cons are it's not as interactive as if you have that kind
but
of
then when you when you started talking about like what you've been trying to be, which is that experience, that interaction, I feel like if you are able to really evolve that, I feel like School of Motion, if you're able to like evolve it and go through that model and scale, I feel like School of Motion would be going like way like bigger. It's like, I don't know how it's going to work, but I feel like that could be something to try. And I'm glad that you're trying the live calls. I want to take another School of Motion course. It's just not in my budget at the moment. So when
Talk to me. Talk to me afterwards. Talk to me afterwards. I know a guy. He might
Definitely. Thank God. I'm glad I know.
Yeah.
This is this is the benefit of knowing Joey Korenman. It's like you can just call him over. Like, hey, Joey, I need the course. Like,
just listen, man. You're gonna be staying at my house.
Definitely.
Right? So come on, just ask me.
I'm coming. I'm coming to Florida. Everyone.
Yeah.
But
you're gonna have to babysit my kids, though. I just want to give
this
you
is
a
going to
heads up.
sound weird, but I've actually dreamed about babysitting your kids. It's like, oh shit, I'm in America and I'm in Florida and like I'm with the Koreman family.
I'm not sure how to take that.
I am like, it's weird. It's
That's
weird.
awesome,
I've
man.
dreamed about it. It's like when I eventually come to America, you'll be the first person I'm seeing.
Yeah. You seem like you'd be good with kids.
Am
I feel like you'd be able to play with
I'm
them.
good with
and hang
people
with them.
though. But yeah. Thank you very much, Joey, for coming.
Yeah.
I don't know where this conversation is going to go. I feel like we covered so much more, and I like that there wasn't like this, like it wasn't like stopped by questions. It was just like we're just flowing into the questions, even realizing that we're flowing into the question. And this is obviously you started this conversation by saying this might be one of my best streams. It looks like this might be my best stream ever. So it's like we have to do this again next year. Like this is a thing for us. Every year we're doing this stream, whether you like it or not. you have no choice for the next few.
Listen, I love it. Just let me know, and hopefully we'll do the stream from my house in person.
Yes, I would love that.
It'll be a lot easier. We won't have the technical difficulties.
I would love that. And since you have a camera, I have a camera. It's like, yes, 2 cameras, and we're like setting it up, and it's amazing. I can't wait for that. That would be amazing. So like before we go,
you have to shave your head though. You're gonna have to shave your head.
I don't think I will. I like my head. Wait. Okay, maybe I'll just shave this. I'll just shave the front part. I'll just shave this part a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it depends if you have like a nice round head. Like, hey, do you know? Is it like lumpy under there? Because that would be. You wouldn't want to do that.
I don't know how it is. I haven't shaved my head completely in like maybe 10 years. No, not 10, maybe like 8 years. I haven't shaved my hair completely in like 8 years. But I might experiment with the look. Let's see. I don't know how it's going to look. Maybe I wouldn't go outside for a while. But we'll see. Okay, before we go.
Awesome. Well, listen, man. Thank you for inviting me on again. It's so fun to talk with you, and I liked all the stuff we talked about today. I think it was kind of like free form, and it felt good. So yeah, I'm happy to come on anytime.
Yes, I would love that. Before we do, I just wanted to like look through the comments because I know people added more comments. And someone is saying, actually, Andrew is saying, Joe, is your band with EJ opening up next year's NAB?
I wish it was. Well, EJ is not like EJ can really only do one thing, and that is sing Africa by Toto. So as long as the band only plays that song, we're good. I'm looking through the questions too. I did see something from Danky.
Oh, it's my friend Ed.
Danky Oh, awesome! Asking about Plainly, and is it something like So he was asking if it's is it similar to MoShare and Algo? So MoShare is Cub Studios' spin-off company where it's basically After Effects templates that their clients can then order renders from, basically. And Algo is a similar thing by Elo, which is an Italian motion design studio. And I think Algo is a little bit more intricate because it can actually pull data from places and trigger animation. So yes, the answer is yes. It's just like both of those. It's a really, really, really simple API. And basically you upload an After Effects project to it. You go into their backend. They have an interface. It's actually pretty easy to use. And it tells you these are all the layers in your comps. And you tell it which ones you'd like to be able to update. Type layers, image layers, it doesn't matter. And so then you can like use expressions to create controls, and there's lots of ways you can do cool things with it. And so the thing that I think is cool is it's really easy to change type layers. So obviously that's useful. But you can feed the API an image or a video or even a sound like an MP3. You can just point to a URL for this thing. And so I actually did another experiment where I was grabbing GIFs from Giphy and importing those into an After Effects project and looping them and messing with them and having it automatically render stuff out. So now you could, and it was just kind of an experiment, but basically it was like pick a random word and then search for that random word on Giphy, grab 10 GIFs, pull it into After Effects, and put like a filter over all 10 of them and loop them a bunch of times and render that out, and it's all automated. That was the kind of stuff that was really, really easy to set up using Plainly. And so there's not really like a commercial use case for that exact thing. But I can imagine a ton of ways that if you're a motion designer and you have clients that are like, hey, we want a social media template and we want to be able to use it, 500 times a month. That's how you do it, right? And someone, Cub, has figured out MoShare, that's how they monetize that. That's how they turn that into a business. Same with
Can
Algo.
you send me the link to Plainly so I can put it in the chat? I'm trying to find the link.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, I can grab it right now.
Yeah.
Let's see. Plainly, it's plainlyvideos.com.
Plainlyvideos.com. Okay, I need to check it out as well.
Plainlyvideos.com. Yeah, and I saw another question in the chat earlier about Suite Studios, which was that computer in the cloud service that I mentioned. And I just pasted the link to that in the chat. So if anyone wants to check that out, it's really, really cool looking. And I haven't tried it yet. Our editor, our head editor, Jean, was going to talk to them, I think today, to get a demo of it. But I think that something like that is going to solve a huge, huge problem, especially if they can figure out the security part of it, where if they can get it secure enough so that like movie studios can use it to, spread work out, I think that's the move.
That is so cool. Like there's so many improvements in softwares, and like that is the most exciting part of our conversation. I'm so excited about all the software improvement. Maybe I would make my own software eventually. I'm just putting it out there. I think what I want to focus on next year is improving work. So I started my own Discord community, and I'm evolving that into. I saw this Discord community called it's like Study Together. It's like a bunch of people studying together, and there's like metrics to tell you how many hours you've been studying. And I want to build that, but for work. So it's like this is like a Discord, and it's like a bot calculating how many hours we're working. And I have an issue where I need someone to keep me productive, to keep me like accountable. So it's like that is my own frontier. So like maybe that's something I'll be building. So let's see how it goes. I'm dropping a link to my Discord in case anyone wants to join.
Yeah, join the Discord and hit the like button and subscribe. And thank you again for
thank you very much, Joey. I
enjoyed it. Yeah.
I don't want to keep you like waiting anymore because I know you have so much to do. So I'm just going to thank you everyone for coming. Thank you for like showing up, even though we had some bumps in the road and we started like 30 minutes late. I'm glad that we have at least 12 people constantly viewing this. I'm going to like just transition to the final end card. I just want to be sure my mic isn't on. But yeah, thank you for
awesome. Well, thanks for hanging, everybody. Appreciate it.
you.